pretty good.
Dorje Sambagarab Dorje Dang. Shere Singe Bardushin Labde, De Ramazan Tatatusun Cheer. Zog Changchub Lama La Soloa. Dev. Ergen Pema Junila Soloa. Dev. Dorje Chang Chitila Narudang. Marpa Mila Gompo Tatsapa. Napupadang Paldam Drupa Sok. Kargil Lamanamla Soloa. Dev. O Chen Lamanamla Soloa. Dev. Do Chen Lamanamla Soloa. Nyando lamanam la solua dev. Alpandu jongdang yerme pa bangarab dorji shintrat pa jetidam nisume pai alamanam chetente. So as this series of teachings has been designed as a question and answer format, have we any questions for this afternoon?
Was Marpa a student of Naropa?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so.
Not only of Naropa, he had a couple of teachers, but Naropa was one of the main ones.
Okay.
Marpa was like us folks who wander out to India and get the Dharma and then bring it back to the States. So he wandered up to Tibet and got he was Tibetan, went down to India, got the Dharma, translated it from Indian culture into Tibetan cultural context, and brought it up to Tibet. The second time, Guru Rinpoche was the first time. The indigenous Dharma of Tibet predates that. So you can just see how it all ties in.
Thank you.
Other questions? Yeah.
Can you tell us about the Bodhisattva path? I've heard that both a Bodhisattva is someone that puts off their own awakening to help other beings, and then also that they awakened so that they can help other beings. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, there is no such thing as individual enlightenment, simply because there is no such thing as an individual. All of us are totally interconnected with everybody else. The substance of your body is something that the cells of your body create out of the food you eat, the air you breathe, and the water you drink, right? So the water you drink came out of a tap, for the most part, or you bought it in a bottle. Somebody put the plumbing in. Somebody manufactured the plumbing. Somebody hooked up the plumbing to the water source. Somebody thought about ecology and purification of water and made those arrangements. The food. Somebody grew it. Somebody fertilized the fields with their feces, cows, compost, whatever. Somebody picked it, somebody shipped it, somebody unpacked it, somebody sold it. So if we look just at the substance of your body, there's been a lot of participants. Not only that, and I'm not even pointing out that you're eating somebody when you eat food, whether it's a plant somebody or an animal somebody. feelings and perceptions that you're having, you've been changing since you were a little kid. You've been interacting with other sentient beings, with birds and cats, with bugs and people, and each one of them is giving you ideas. You've read books. Somebody wrote the books, put their ideas into the books. You've learned something from the books. You've made decisions based on some of the things you've learned from the books, and from the people and from your teachers. Your thoughts and feelings and even the way you perceive the world is based on input from other living beings, interactive. What else are you besides a pile of thoughts, feelings, and perceptions in form as form? Meet genetics. People have been mating for eons, coming together and coming apart until your particular individual genetic pattern arose. Mitochondria, once independently living sentient beings who are now symbiotes, and you can't live without them. Where's the individual? So the very idea of one clump of interaction, interpenetrating, intercreativeness, getting enlightened with, and not the other clumps. I mean, how? You can't even get the clump separate from all the other clumps. Bodhisattva literally translates as Buddha consciousness. It is an of course when you notice what you're actually made of. However, there is also method. Ever be depressed? I mean, most people have had periods, whether they last hours, days, months, or years. We've all had the experience of depression. Remember last time you were feeling really depressed or bummed out? Where was your attention? On your own crap, on what you were doing wrong, how terrible your relationship, job situation, housing situation, or whatever it is you were twirling on is. But you were very self-focused in depression. We tend to be very self-focused, and the more self-focused we get, the less happy we are. The more cramped, tight. You ever know anyone who clinically suffers from paranoia? They feel real important to themselves, don't they? I mean, if you're a nobody, the CIA is not going to bother chasing you. Right? Most pathological insanities, which are simply normal insanities taken to an extreme, we're all nuts, are an extreme of self-focused. The method of Bodhisattva is other-focused. It leads as method towards sanity, towards happiness, and away from depression. If you find for yourself a doing in the world where you really believe you're of benefit to others, and most of your attention is not on you being of benefit to others, but the others receiving the benefit, you're going to feel pretty good. If you've ever had a time in your life where you have been in a circumstance where you could really feel like you were benefiting others, as a teacher, as a babysitter, as a physician, as a body worker, as a whatever, a friend, I bet you felt really good about yourself and your surroundings during that period. Unless you were real self-focused about how you were taking care of others, rather than your attention on the others. See what I mean? So Bodhisattva as a method is a method of relaxing the tight grip of self-focus. So when we do certain prayers and practices, manis or whatever we're working on, to generate Bodhisattva, what we're actually doing is opening up our focus of attention from the me. I want to get mine from me and I'm not good enough anyway, which is kind of where we go when we're being really fucked up. To, oh, what an interesting person. Also, in the dance of yin and yang, which in the Tibetan system symbolizes the dance of method and wisdom, which is the dance of the infinite, spacious, open awareness, with the function of the form of Bodhisattva. If you were to focus only on infinite open spaciousness, without the loving open-heartedness, if you just go for open-mindedness without loving open-heartedness of Bodhisattva, what you're going to hit is something rather nihilistic. I'm not, nobody else is, so what the fuck, it don't matter. Nuh-uh, you're tipped. Love, which universal love, it's not quite the right word, I don't mean Valentine's Day love. I mean the love the way you love your mama and your daddy. I mean the love the way you love your baby. I mean the love the way you love your kitten or your puppy if you don't have a baby. Not romantic love, which has jealousy and all sorts of insecurities all wrapped up in it, which is why it doesn't always work real well. It has all what you want from the other person, what they want from you, and whether they're giving you that. No, I'm talking about that just, I mean, you don't want anything from a kitten when you're holding a purring kitten. You just want it to be happy. Same thing with the way you love your parents. Same thing with the way you love your babies. It's a pretty simple open-heartedness. It's not compassion. Wrong translation. That's not the Tibetan word. The Tibetan word is great-hearted open-heartedness. Minji. When a Tibetan sees a cute puppy, they exclaim, "Oh, Minji." That doesn't mean, "Oh, compassion, poor thing." That means, "Oh, seeing this makes my heart expand." Oh, great heartifyingness. So, although we work with Bodhisattva as a method, it is actually a description of the balance of emptiness. We say emptiness because it's empty of the independently existing anything. It's all interconnected, which is that emptiness means the absolute of Bodhisattva. The complete interpenetrating interconnectedness of all phenomena, where nothing stands alone, means that the peak culmination or true reality of Bodhisattva is emptiness. It is empty of independent existence. So yeah, we use it as method, but it's actually the reality of the totality of it. Does this answer your question? slightly from a different context than you worded it, but I can't go into quite, I mean, it's big. Other questions? Do not lose sight of Bodhisattva in whatever way you are perceiving it in this moment. If you want to perceive it as a set of vows, that's where you are right now. Perceive it as a set of vows, the Bodhisattva vows. To aspire to. Nobody keeps them perfectly. That's why we have Vajrasattva. That's why we do Vajrasattva every night. For all the oopses of the day, of which there are inevitably many. For every oops of each moment in which we grasp a reality, an external reality, in which we grasp duality, which is the oops that accompanies every perception. Other questions? Yes.
You had referenced earlier the 9 dimensions. I was
Yes.
wondering if you could speak to your experience of the dimensions you've experienced.
Well, I'm not sure I can give you all 9 today. I may or may not have had enough coffee to do that, and it's more than 9. I just find 9 is about as far as I can go. It may be as far as Homo sapiens go. Not sure. First dimension is breadth. A point becomes a line. Second dimension is width. A line becomes a plane. Third dimension is depth. A plane becomes a solid. Fourth dimension is time. The solid has duration, or at least appears to. Fifth dimension is macrocosmic, microcosmic. You can actually go in a direction called bigger or smaller. Those are directions. It is said in the sutras that our entire multiverse, the realms of form and other realms of desire, form and formless, all of them, plus many others just like them, are contained in a single grain of pollen, on the stamen of a lotus, in the hand of a Buddha in the macroverse. Big and small may be perceived as a direction. Something has size, it's a dimension. Dreamtime is a dimension. Imagination can be perceived and experienced as a dimension. Something has aliveness, can be perceived as a dimension. That's up to 5. That's as far as I'm going with you today. 5 easy ones. That's about what's coming easy to me in visualization at the moment. But there is more. There's like an inside out, which is 6, but I'm not sure how to describe it. It's a reverse equation or a reverse polarity. And there is another direction which isn't bigger and smaller, but is a sideways in those directions. That would be number 7. But I don't quite manage to get those into English, even when I think about them. It's just something fun to play with. Those are thoughts. The dimensions aren't any more real than a mathematical equation. A mathematical equation is made up by human beings. They make it up, they write it down, they play with it does not define a real reality. It defines a reality within the dimension of mathematics. There are things which are true in algebra that are not true in real life, and vice versa. For example, in algebra, if A equals B, B will equal A. Yes? Basic algebra, as you learn beginning algebra, you may already be getting that in school by now. That's somewhere around 3rd grade. So in real life, hair might equal brown, but brown does not equal hair. Hair is brown. Brown is not hair. You see, they're different descriptor realities, and each thing within its description is only real within its description. And everything you perceive and experience is a description. Does that answer? Other questions?
Could you describe Samaya and how a Samaya applies to either Dzogchen or Mahamudra?
Samaya is a Sanskrit word, Domtsig in Tibetan, which refers to a verbal agreement of relationship. A marriage is a Domtsig, but it is generally used to refer to dharmic verbal agreements. However, do understand that the Tibetans live in a thought-created reality which is extremely dharmic, and the Dharma pervades all of it. Phrase your question again.
How is Samaya important in the practice of Dzogchen or Mahamudra?
The Samaya of Dzogchen, which supersedes all lesser Samayas, is to never separate from the totality of yourself, ever. When that is possible for you, not intellectually, then it supersedes Tantric Domsik. Tantric Domsik supersedes the Sutrayana Domsik. So the higher the level of Domsik, it supersedes the lower levels. So if you hold the 8 precepts of a layperson, but you also hold the Bodhisattva vows, so we're moving Sutrayana into Mahayana, you can break those 8 precepts if you need to for the sake of others. The Bodhisattva vows override. Tantric vows override Bodhisattva vows, although they generally are not in conflict. But, for example, not to spend more than 3 days with someone guesting with someone who is not a tantric practitioner. You might think it might be really good for them to have your energy. But we generally, if we are serious tantric practitioners, cannot hold our tantric form with something tugging against it for more than 3 days. So after 3 days, you're probably not helping with your energy. Is this making sense to you? And the Domsik of Dzogchen is considered the highest of Domsiks, to never separate from the totality of natural mind. There's a joke in there. in case anybody noticed it. But I can't tell you what it is because it's top secret.
There's a couple people here that are new, right here this morning. And you had mentioned possibly going over teaching to one group push. And just let me know that they may need a little prep.
Then they better ask a question.
Here it is.
I am quite unfamiliar with Dzogchen in general. Could you possibly give I'm sure there's a lot to encompass, but a understanding of what to know of Dzogchen? I know only that it is essentially the step beyond Tantra.
Are you familiar with a little bit with the sutras and the teachings of the sutras?
Yeah.
Are you familiar a little bit with Mahayana and the teachings of Bodhisattva? Are you familiar a little bit with the symbols of Tantra?
Yes.
Dzogchen is super simple. It is simply the direct awareness of the totality of your own nature. All living beings have Buddha nature. In the basic sutra teachings on impermanence, all things which have a beginning are going to end. All things which are an accumulation are going to come apart. You've heard this. So if enlightenment was something you were going to get someday, then after a while you'd lose it again. If enlightenment was something you were going to achieve, it would come apart again. So recognizing that, we recognize that enlightenment is inherent in all living beings. So then we wonder, well, why aren't they feeling it? Why don't they know they're enlightened? And on examining that, we will notice quite easily that it's because they are entirely focusing their attention on what they think, how they feel, and the perceptions of their six sense organs, on phenomena, both inner and outer. And compulsively, we obsess with phenomena. What have you been focusing your attention on all day today? Objects, driving, things you've been thinking about, how you've been feeling about the things you've been thinking about. What you want is a feeling. What you don't want is a feeling. Can you find anything that's not a phenomena that your attention has been on today?
Well, I did a yoga session that allows me to get out of my head.
You may have gotten out of your head, but you were still focusing on sensations of the body, were you not?
Yeah.
That's a perception. And you either liked some of those sensations or disliked some of those sensations. That's a feeling. And you thought about how to improve the sensations you disliked to get them to where you'd like them. I should fix my posture a little bit. You know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a thought. Your attention is on phenomena. You might not be intellectualizing, but you're paying attention to your perceptions. Perceptions are composed of sensations and interpretation of those sensations. automatically, the moment we have a sensory experience, we interpret it as a thing. We name it. Even if we don't specifically say to ourselves, Lama's cup of coffee. Somehow or other, we recognize the object. We don't think Lama has a persimmon in her hand. So we're making something of this already. That's how we shift a sensation of the eyeballs, which is only color and shape, rods and cones, into a perception which includes naming. And perceptions are actually called the ignorance which accompanies all sensations, because they are a limitation. Even if I had here a crystal goblet of Dorje, you would probably see a cup of coffee, because you would not know how to interpret a sensation as a crystal goblet of Dorje. It is too unexpected. So you'd make a nice ordinary cup of coffee out of it. Dragons are not hard to see. In the clouds, in the storms. Even, the babies when they first hatch and come out of the clefts in the rocks. However, you probably don't see those because you don't think you can see those. So if you see that, immediately your mind explains it away of the moving of a blowing leaf, a cloud formation. And you see what you tell yourself you saw. Our perceptions, which are described by our thoughts. And the feelings we have aren't about our sensations. They're about what we think is happening, about our interpretation of the sensations and the story we tell ourselves about that interpretation. That's what we have feelings about. So it's all several times removed from any actual objective reality, should there happen to be one. Jury's out on that. Dzogchen is simply a very simple, very direct method of letting go of your compulsory, narrow focus on phenomena into a greater, more expansive open awareness, which is not obsessing with thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. We suffer due to the stories we tell ourselves. If you think your lover is cheating on you, and you tell yourself a story that is occurring, whether it is or not, you will suffer jealousy. If you think someone has taken something that should be yours, a position, a relationship, a parking space, you will suffer anger, whether or not that actually happened. When people's stories get too far from the norm, we say they are having a schizophrenic break. But it's just a matter of degree, that. And if we're honest with ourselves, there are times, even though by now we've learned not to say it out loud, where our stories have diverged considerably from the norm. In Dzogchen, which is all about easy. We follow our thoughts home to the expanse of our mind with our attention. This is not going like this to here. It's more the difference between going like focusing your eyes on a written word to the difference of letting your eyeballs relax into a non-focus while pointed at the sky. That's what Dzogchen does. It's a brief description of Semde of Dzogchen. There are other aspects of Dzogchen. One is Longde, which is more or less a whole bunch of nundros that are used to help people relax that muscle. And there is Minokde, about which nothing can be said. Doesn't fit in words. It's non-conceptual. Semde is the one that is very direct and can actually be instructed on and talked about in words. Not accurately, but kind of, sort of. Showing someone how to do the easy non-action of relaxing into isness is called the pointing out instructions. I did that briefly this morning, but a review is good for those of you who weren't there. The pointing out instructions should always be had in person, at least once. It is thought by some teachers and not by others, so jury's out, and we don't know yet, too newfangled, that live streaming works, but recorded stuff doesn't. Now, theoretically, if it crosses space, it should be able to cross time. Nobody knows yet. Hey, technology is recent. We've only been mixing it with Dharma for 50 years at the most. That's no time at all in the lengths of lineages. So the old-fashioned way in person is still recommended whenever possible. In the pointing out instructions, like in many Tibetan instructions, breaks down into threes: instructions of the body, instructions of the speech, and instructions of the mind. This is done because it's an oral lineage, and therefore you need to have numbers so you can know if you left something out, because you're memorizing, because it's oral. It is not Tibetans are not frequently literate. And very few Tibetans who are literate in the way we as Westerners think of literacy. We define literacy as the ability to read and understand what you have read. Whereas to a Tibetan, it's simply to be able to make the sounds out of the letters. And many Tibetans are literate only in the ability to make the sounds out of the letters, but not in understanding what is actually said. Therefore, things are memorized a lot. In order to memorize, they get broken down into categories and given numbers. Cultural. The teaching of the body is to align the channels. You're doing that fine. That's your right leg, yep. Just right. You happen to have a fairly long torso. For your hands to be pretty much right opposite the dantian, you may wish to sometimes put a pillow on your lap so that they're right about here, but you don't want to hold them up with muscles if you want to get perfectionist about it. The teaching of the speech is to simply shut up and stop talking to yourself. Easier said than done. the teaching of the body, and I have to complete the teaching of the mind for you. You've got the body right, your teeth must not be together, which I don't think they are from the look of your jaw. Tongue is a little in between. Tongue lies naturally on the roof of the mouth. But the gaze of the eyes is the key to the body teaching of Dzogchen. The pointing of the eyeballs follows the line of your nose outward and down. But the eyeballs, the muscles that control the lens of your eyes, have to unfocus. If you have your eyes focused on a point, it will interfere. So one of the most important teachings of the body is to unfocus your eyeballs. The advantage to wearing glasses is that happens almost automatically to people when they take them off. So if you wear glasses and just take them off, it makes it ever so much easier than those of us who have to struggle with this without glasses. Because you see, your attention follows the gaze of your eyes. When you unfocus your eyeballs from point focus, it will assist you in unfocusing your attention from point focus. This is not one-pointed focus on emptiness. It is not pointed. You relax the muscles of your body and your eyeballs. You stop talking to yourself, but do not attempt to suppress the flicker of nonverbal thoughts. For many, and this is the inner mind, Rushan, this is a bit of Semde that helps here. The trick is to simply sit and think in pictures. So you make a picture in your mind's eye of, for example, a big freight train moving slowly, right as if you're standing right up near it. Include the sound. Imagine this with your imagination. Now, obviously, your mind's eye is in your mind. Your imagination is in your mind, so this picture you are creating in your mind's eye with your imagination is in your mind. So first you look at the picture, and then you open your looking to look at where the picture is happening. You look at mind with mind, not a point focus. When mind sees itself, there is no thing there to see. Infinite, vast expanse. Our words sometimes used, Longchenrabjan, infinite, vast expanse, to describe the perception of open awareness. But it's bigger than its perception. It is empty of size, shape, center or edge, color. It is empty of characteristics, for all characteristics are thoughts which arise in mind. They are made of mind. They dissolve in mind when you're done thinking them, but they are not the totality of mind. Now, are they? this is called following your thoughts home. The Longde Rushen, inner mind Rushen as it is called, is to look for, with your attention, where your thoughts are happening. You look inside your body in all the different parts of your body. You look outside your body in all the different parts of your perceived universe, again and again, until you don't find anything for sure. The Rushen, which is a kind of Nundro, leads to the direct perception of open awareness, which is not a thing. Don't try to understand this. Understand the instructions and follow the instructions. Let us do it together. Think, imagine the picture of the freight train. Visualize it in your mind's eye. Now, where's that picture? Is it in your hair? Is it in your scalp? Is it in your brain? Can you really fit that between your ears? That's a pretty big visualization, a pretty big picture. All through your body, piece by piece, with the same intensity you look for your car keys or the missing homework assignment. Where's the picture? What's the picture made of? Does it have substance? Does it have duration? If you examine it, you will notice that it does not have duration. You're simply making a new picture again and again. Each one subtly different from the old one. A little closer, a little further, focusing on a different part of it. If you examine your thoughts with your mind, you will notice eventually that no single thought has either substance nor duration. For your thoughts, every one of them without exception arises in mind, vanishes in mind, to be replaced by the next thought, to be replaced by the next thought. And you can neither grasp them nor keep them. And arising in mind and dissolving in mind, they have never been made of anything other than mind. Allow random thoughts to arise and vanish as they will, while you relax your attention again and again, more and more, into the infinite open awareness of mind itself. You will notice eventually that although it is empty of substance or duration, it is nonetheless of the nature of transparency, of transparent light, clear light. It is vital. It's not just a big dead old mechanistic nothing. There is I will call it an aliveness to it, which is the ability to think, feel, and perceive. And you are having continuously thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, and they're arising in mind and dissolving in mind. And they have never been anything other than mind. Mind sees itself for what it is, not you over here looking at mind over there. It's your mind seeing itself. When you find yourself for a moment distracted by your habitual obsession with the occurrences that occur in mind, such as thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, just relax and relax again. Let go. This infinite open awareness, the thinker, the feeler, the perceiver, has always been there for as long as sentience. Be perceiving. It's not new. You just may not have noticed it before, but it's always been there. It's what's doing the thinking. It's what's doing the feeling. It's you, who you really are, what you really are. You're not just what you think you are. You're the thinker of that thought as well. And that thought itself is made of mind arising in mind, dissolving in mind. Not a thing. And all thoughts are transparent in their innate and natural transparency. You are able to perceive nature of mind while thinking. It's only when you scrunch up and go tunnel focus that that's hard to do. Let me give you an example. Visualize here in my hands a pumpkin. Big old orange pumpkin. Visualize it, imagine it, think it as hard and as solid as you possibly can, as real as you can make it. Why are you laughing? Because you see right through it and I'm making faces at you. You can't make a thought not be transparent when you're not grabbing at them. Innate, natural, open awareness is obvious to itself. See what I mean? Too simple. To notice nature of mind. To perceive nature of mind is called tawa in Tibetan. To recognize your own nature is the first vital point. The second point, again and again, notice the already recognized tawa. You cannot hold a thought still. Try. Pick a thought, any thought. Persimmon. Try and hold it still. You can repeat it again and again, but it's not the same thought. What do you think happened to all the thoughts you thought this morning? They left. Where'd they go? Back into mind, dissolving in mind, right back into the open awareness they came from. They all do that. Gom, which translates better than tawa, translates as meditation. Meditation is not in Dzogchen something you just do on your cushion. It is something you also do on your cushion. Doing it on your cushion is an important component. But if all you do is sit and meditate on your cushion and the rest of the day obsess in the normal way with thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, yeah, it's not going to do much. Let me find something for you. Which one is this? I think this is Cuckoo Song. Yeah, this is the Cuckoo Awareness, not that one. Intro, long stop. The text I'm looking for is inevitably in the last place I try. Just works that way. And no matter how hard I try to keep this stuff organized, I got gremlins. It's going to be the last one you watch and see. Here we are. This is a teaching on Gam, the Katak Chakcha of Dzogchen. This is by Changchub Dorje, given as an oral transmission in Tibetan. We wrote it down. I probably spelled most of it wrong. To Wangdur Rinpoche. So it's not a published or common teaching. Changchub Dorje was also the teacher of Wangdur Rinpoche's heart teacher, Khenpo Chunchon. This is all back in Tibet, long ago, far away. And of Norbu Rinpoche. Although the teaching he gave Norbu Rinpoche is of course worded differently than the teaching he gave Wangdur Rinpoche, because they were different people. Wangdur Rinpoche was an old nomad cowboy. Never finished college. They closed it down. The Chinese were coming. Norbu Rinpoche was a very highly educated tulku. Wangdo Rinpoche was just an old cowboy. So very different personalities between them, therefore a different way of phrasing the teaching. My son, listen closely, or my child, listen closely. What you call mind isn't anything concrete. Allow, not force, allow your own mind to look at itself. Past thoughts are no longer here. All gone. And the future ones haven't happened yet. And whatever arises now in this moment is beyond description. Let all thoughts of the past, present, and future settle into their own nature. Right now, in this very now, not the next now, not the last now, this now. Look right at the nature of that. Mind looking. If you see colors or shapes, then you've strayed from Rigpa's presence. And if you think it's nothing, that's nothing, there's nothing there, you're having the opposite oops. You're leaning toward the cliff edge, the knife edge of nihilistic emptiness. It's no thing, not nothing. It lacks thingness as well as lacking nothingness. You cannot encompass it with a concept. It is not what you think it is. Can't be. Thoughts are little and temporary, arising and vanishing in mind, made of mind, but they cannot encompass the totality of mind. How could they? And if you stray toward the cliff edge of nihilistic emptiness, the richness of your own nature won't come out. You can analyze and meditate for 100 years, but you won't be headed towards liberation. The great perfection, Dzogchen, naturally as it is, this very present awareness right now, this moment, all moments, this one too, right here, just this. It is free from conditioning by thoughts. It's not made up. Clear, radiant like the sky. The unchanging ground is Dharmakaya. An analogy in Western thought would be the space in which matter moves. Ground does not mean solidity in this translation. And the clear, radiant awareness of this is unceasing in its splendor, Sambhogakaya. And the arising of all that is, everything, thoughts, feelings, perceptions, all of it without exception, is the everywhere present Tigli, Nirmanakaya. And so whatever appears, don't do anything with it. let it settle by itself. All thoughts, which are the causes of the 5 poisons, arising and releasing, no difference between the arising and the releasing, the occurring and the dissolving. Without duration, these are not separate functions. Like writing on water. No mark is left. No thing happens. They are released. They arise and are released by themselves, dissolving into space. Arising and releasing, no difference. When thoughts arise, look directly at the nature of that arising. How they arise, as what they arise, from whence they arise. Same thing, different ways of saying the same thing. When thoughts dissolve, look directly at the nature of that release. What just dissolved? What is dissolving in this moment? What is releasing? What is arising? No difference, arising and releasing. It is exactly the same. There is no slipping into preference. With no difference between arising and releasing. There is no way to prefer the releasing to the arising because they're the same thing. When eating, sitting, walking, getting up, sleeping or talking, whatever you do, right while you're doing it, not after. Right now, in this now, in all the nows, every now. Look directly at the nature of the arisings, at the nature of the now. Not the dance of phenomena in which no thing whatsoever moves, rising and vanishing, preference, no difference. This is how Buddhas arise from sentient beings, rising and vanishing, no preference, no difference, no separation. There is no direct teaching more profound than this. Those who rely on this teaching, beyond causes and conditions, in the expanse of the Dharmatu, that's a word that means Dharmakaya, infinite open awareness, Sambhogakaya, the innate clear light vitality of the infinite open awareness, Nirmanakaya, the lively creativity that arises in the infinite open awareness as the vitality playing. Dharmata means all of that, using one word. Realize every appearance as magic. The wisdom I is now present, and so is the knowing. Moshe. It means clairvoyance. Your body is no longer solid. It travels through structures. And when your life span comes to its end and breaks down into atoms and the 4 elements, there will be the blessings of the 5-colored ring cell, unchanging, naturally open. This is Rigpa settling into the space of Dharmakaya. Rigpa the seer, awareness. And Rupakaya's enlightened activity, which brings benefits to all who live equal in number to the vastness of space. Thus concludes this teaching, which carries much benefit. Gio. May all be. That's how you meditate in Dzogchen. That's how you do Trikja. At all times and on all occasions. Recognize, notice the already known Dharmakaya nature of mind, the already known Tawa. Questions? Ew.
We're supposed to relax our eyes.
Yep.
How would this work with a blind person?
They should relax their ears,
Oh, okay.
or whichever sense they have prioritized, and use for their general focused perception. I have taught this to blind people. I just substitute the word hear for the word see. Instead of listening and paying attention to a specific sound, such as my voice and words, relax into the entire sonic background, unfocused with your attention. Works fine. Other questions? Keep going.
Oh, shit. I gotta come back to that.
Okay.
I lost my train of thought.
Common occurrence.
Oh, you can attain or become enlightened through any of the senses?
You don't become enlightened. You recognize enlightenment through all of the senses. Usually for specific individuals, a certain method of learning, for instance, Brian is somatic, tactile. I'm visual. Jan is audio. This is important in the Rushen, in Longde, for the inner mind nundro, where you're looking for your mind, where I do it by a visualization, freight train. Jan does it as a musician by listening to a song, composing a bit of music in her mind's ear, and then looking for where the music is playing. Brian would do it by imagining, say, the sensation of wearing burlap, or the sensation of wearing velvet on his body. Imagine it, and then where are you feeling that sensation? It's not in your skin. It's in your mind. Just as the tune you have created is playing in your mind, and the freight train you are visualizing is visualized in your mind. So this is simply a method of drawing your attention from what you are thinking to where you are thinking. Because what you are thinking is in where you are thinking. But it's a subtle shift of perception. At first. Then there's this thing called stabilizing Changchub. You will not be able to stabilize anything that is unstable. What moves, moves. Impermanence. You can't make impermanence things last. You can't keep them. So you will notice that perceptions, thoughts, and feelings are quite impermanent. They don't last, and you can't make them do that. So when people talk about stabilizing trekcha, they are not trying to get the idea of trekcha to hold still. Can't keep an idea, it's a thought. They are not trying to get the feeling of open awareness to remain. It won't, it's a feeling, they come and go. Not even to get the direct perception of mind to stay. Perceptions change. Look there, now look over there. See, it's different, it changed. It is rather a matter of becoming more and more certain what doesn't change. So you're sure. Sure is a thought. However, that is the method. And now that's for this afternoon. This was far enough this morning. Tomorrow morning. I want to stay with Gom. Meditation and how you do it. So I gave you those bracelets this morning when we first mentioned it. Those you wear and they remind you to look and see if your mind is still there. Completely simple. I don't think you got one. Would you like one?
Sure. Yes.
This is only for those who wish to do this practice. Well, come here. Did someone else not get one who feels a need?
I'm right-handed. You gave me a left-handed one.
I had a teacher once who was really into intensity and had an ambition to be reborn in hell as a tulku and teach the sentient beings there. So one of the things he did, this is Lama Lena, is he took his finger and wrapped an oil-soaked rag around it and lit it and did Kora to the Bodh Gaya stupa while simultaneously creating great amounts of merit by doing this, offering the butter lamp, and great amounts of, say, digpa by giving the Bodh Gaya stupa the finger. That was Lama Lena. I believe he did actually achieve his ambition. He's down there digging hell out of its mess, having a high old time. He was really kinky. Any other questions? Then we are complete for this afternoon. Nge wandil nyur dudal che che sala go parshog. Tasha, when you categorize this one, this set of teachings can be categorized as pointing out instructions. And that's to the online categorizers.
Are you still there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Are we going to do kata?
For those who are unable to return or think they might not make it back tomorrow morning, where we will talk about sopa. What you got? Ooh. Jewels, a mandala. For me? Thank you. That is very auspicious. And you know what I'm going to do with these? I'm going to wrap them up in something and take them home and put them in my mandala plate. So that every time I am offering a mandala or working with that, I remember you. And we share that practice. Thank you. Now, I figured you were coming tomorrow, are you? So I didn't bring the ring today. Okay, great. You want a little of this anyway? Come on up. This is Psychic Vitamins. For those who weren't here this morning, it's gluten-free and vegan. Drink it, tastes good.
I don't know if it's vegan, actually.
I don't think they put any 7 times dead ramen in there. I don't think.
Does it have any essence of the masters?
Oh, there's that. You're right. It might not be vegan, guys. Just might have some essence of the masters. Those of you who are not coming back tomorrow, take this opportunity to offer a kata. The rest of you, welcome to come up and still get a bonky.